Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Pickering. Andrew. Right, ladies and gentlemen, please. We've got a terrific finish for you this afternoon. We've got a great finish for you this afternoon. Andrew Pickering from SHAPE. Actually, you can see it. Is that better? So Andrew Pickering from SHAPE is going to be talking to Ted Horner and Isaac Kim. Andrew has been working for SHAPE for 16 years. He's a guy with SHAPE that gets the job done, I know. He's probably the worker in the room, whereas Brett and that table down there just get all the kudos. And since joining SHAPE in 2008, he's been in the hotel and entertainment sector. He's got expertise in rooms and food and beverage, and you delivered the Star refurbishment. It was a big project, and still working on lots of projects here in Sydney. So a good man to know. Now, Andrew's going to be talking to Ted and Isaac. Ted, many of you would know. He's got his own conference every year. He's been around since 1989 with his own company. He's a founding member of the Hotel Technology Next Generation. He's asked to speak in the United States quite often. You must have a million fly miles, Ted, I imagine. Chairman's Lounge and all that sort of thing.
I wish.
And he's on the International Board of Directors of Hotel Technology Financial Professionals, which is the largest hotel technology exhibition conference in the world. And he's done assignments all over the world, as you'll see in his bio in the program. Isaac Kim, I just met for the first time today. Isaac, pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Got a scientific academic background, studying advanced chemistry and human physiology during his university years. His world turned upside down. I love that. I wish I could put that in my bio. Right? It's a great statement. When he had a revelation of passion around technology while stumbling upon Henry Jenkins' theory of a black box fallacy and how all technology was being converted into one personal device or black box. Kim's passion quickly turned his studies and career ambitions towards technology and related roles. He's worked at Apple, a business doing business-to-business sales, and he likes to talk about everyday technology, which I think fits very well into this little segment. So please welcome Isaac and Ted and Andrew. Thank you.
So I think my job here today is not as much a moderator, but maybe a timekeeper. So I'll have a bet on with these guys. If they can stay on time, I'll buy them dinner. it might be one cough for a warning, two coughs for a bigger warning. And if I start singing, that's like the Oscars, and you got to get off the stage. So Ted, maybe up to you.
Thanks, Ray. Thank you.
Start us with some guest room technology.
First question. Hands up those in the audience who have a mobile smartphone more than 2 years old. Wow. Usually the people who have got mobile smartphones for more than 2 years don't want to tell the rest of the world that they've got something more. So anyone got any that's 3 or 4 years old? Wow, gosh. So the reality at the end of the day is that my presentation is about technology, but also its impact on design. So I'm going to focus a lot on mobility and a few other things, but let me read you a couple of quick facts. On an average, people check their mobile phone every 6 minutes. People use mobile apps 6 times more than they do websites. 79% of smartphone users use their mobile to make purchasing decisions. 50% users make purchases on mobile within 1 hour, as compared to up to a month on desktops. 73% of business owners use mobile apps daily. I think you get the picture. So, let's do mirror, mirror on the wall. Compare what we saw in 1993 to 2013 and now as we advance to 2015. I'm not going to read this statement, but as I travel around the world, sometimes we lose sight of what we're trying to achieve, and sometimes we fill our rooms with technology that sometimes doesn't work. I'm now 62 years old with glasses. I find these panels by the wall to turn lights on off. I have to get down on my hands and knees, and I'm still struggling to read these little panels on the wall, press button up. Or you then press the button for all the lights off and you forget that the little desk lamp's got a foot pedal around the corner and you've got to get out of bed and go over and turn that one. So that's the challenge we have, that we don't put technology in a guest room just for the sake of the technology. Like this one is based on, for those who haven't seen it, my personal opinion, if you want to get a better picture of it, the best in-room guest technology in the world right now, got to be careful when you make those statements, is the Peninsula in Hong Kong. This is their screensavers, and I'll quickly go through them. And this is their objectives. Now, there is a video, a YouTube video on the internet. If you type in guest room technology Peninsula Hong Kong, you'll get to see a 4.5-minute video which basically goes through and shows photographs of what they've done. The scary thing is some of my clients tell me, Ted, when you can charge $1,000 a room a night, you can put wonderful technologies in. Or alternatively, you know, when they can charge that sort of money, we can spend a lot more money. Depending who you talk to in that hotel, somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 US per room for technology in the guest room. Now, I've just come back from a week in the United States, staying at 4 different hotels in Las Vegas and Seattle, and I did not turn the TV on once. Even if I did, I wouldn't have found any information on the Rugby World Cup in the United States of America. So I now have smh.com.au and news.com.au sent to me every day, and that's my thing, and if I've got time to get past that, past the endless number of emails. So what does that mean? For those who are in the TV business, this is the question I ask. We are living in a BY world. By the way, if anyone wants to copy this presentation, let me know. You're more than welcome to have it, because within a month it'll be out of date and I'll have new material in there. So, as you can see, I've thrown a few little one down the back there, right? But what I need to see is you only have to travel on a plane to see how people are watching content on tablets and smartphones. The millennials and Y generation, and even some baby boomers like me, right, although I'm at the other end, are still looking at content on my mobile device, whatever it shall be. And that's reinforced by those facts I gave you at the start. As I said, I've got a few slides, so I'll keep moving. As you can see, the most important statement at the bottom, hotel guests are one of the most technologically sophisticated users. So if you're going to deploy technology, for God's sake, make sure it works. And what's more, I love the comments all during the day about the reality about the importance of Wi-Fi. You can have the most beautiful Morgan's Hotel or Jumeirah Hotel or any of those others, but if the Wi-Fi is poor, that will be a lasting impression of that hotel. It won't be how wonderful the comfy bed is or the shower or anything else. The Internet of Things, a Cisco term, but the reality with that is by the year 2020, it is predicted that people will be coming to your hotel room with up to 10 devices per person. This is the fastest growing segment in the consumer marketplace right now. How many people have got Fitbit or Garmin? Gee, I was surprised there's not more actually. At the Consumer Electronics Show last year, that was the fastest growing segment of the marketplace. Connect with your guests. The reality is, at the end of the day, I hate to say it for the general managers in the room, and I have lots of conversations with them, Wi-Fi now is more important than a comfy bed and a shower. They're still grappling with that. But at the end of the day, people now are uncomfortable or will move immediately from one hotel to the next. I'm still trying to convince owners of hotels to spend more money on technology. I'm an educationalist and an evangelist. All I can say is I've got a long way to go. And I had the opportunity to speak to a group of owners at a high-cap conference in Hong Kong, first time ever, and I finally got a sense that there was some serious interest and engagement in technology. Now, how do consumers use mobile devices? You can see the facts. As I said, this presentation I've got for the purposes of, I've got 6.5 minutes according to my schedule there, so we'll keep doing well. This is the area that I believe will see a paradigm shift in hotels. Albeit in its infancy, it is my belief, now being shared by others, thank God, that mobile smartphone check-in will revolutionise our industry. That's a scary thing, and it's actually the area that I engaged with at HiCap in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago. Because owners are starting to get it, that the reality at the end of the day is smartphone and mobile check-in is not going to necessarily completely replace the front desk. And that was the horror on people's faces when I said it's the next big thing. It will be an alternate method of check-in. Starwood, for those in the room, I want to give you credit because you guys have been out front there. Hilton's following behind. And Jerry, who's left the room, will be one of the first hotels in this country. I convinced him to come to Hi-Tech this year, and he's like something in a candy store. He just fell in love with all the technology. And before I even knew it, he was signing up deals here, there, and everywhere. And come December, I'm rushing up to the hotel to check out his mobile check-in with the company that he's using. As I said, 62% of travellers would say yes to a check-in room ready, alert sent to their mobile device. Now, I hasten to caution. The hotel I was staying at in Seattle last week was the Hyatt in Bellevue, which is a suburb about 10 minutes from the city. They've had their smartphone application ready to go with Hyatt. Problem is, Hyatt's only got 2 hotels in the whole of the United States with this. Because the problem with smartphone technology, if you're a big international hotel chain, it has to be part of your loyalty. And what Starwood's done brilliantly is it's pushed its technology already to Starwood preferred guests, and more importantly to millennial type guests. And by the way, for those who don't know, 24% of the American population is millennials. For those who don't know what the definition of millennials are, it varies a bit, but it's typically people born in the early 80s and beyond. Different people have different dates. So there's a difference between millennials and Y generation. I was born in 53, so I'm not sure what I am, baby boomer, I think. Right. But the important thing is, at the Hyatt in Bellevue, when I actually had a demonstration by the staff, only 2 Hyatts. So what they've been trying to do is educate their guests that that facility exists. Of their loyalty members that they have staying at their hotel, they emailed 7,000 of them, invited them to try the application. So far, only 25 people have. That represents 1.75, and if you talk to Starwood and other hotels, it's still 3 or 4%. There's a hotel in Vegas, same rolled out technology. They've started educating their guests as they check in. There is an alternative because, as you know, in Vegas, you come to a hotel reception, there's 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 people in the foyer, if not more. I've just come off a long flight. If someone said to me there's a mobile smartphone application, I'm ready to go with BLE, I'd be jumping on it immediately. But there are still some issues, and if you go to some of the blog sites, you'll see. But certainly I see in the next 3 years this as being a game changer. Now, what does that mean from a design perspective? Well, I saw some beautiful iconic hotels and lovely reception desks. But are we going to need huge, big reception desks in the next 3 to 5 years if 30, 40, 50% of your guests, and by the way, millennials are an emerging force both across the globe, and they are your next generation guests if they aren't already, and they will adapt to this technology based on the fact that everybody now wants to do everything on their smartphone. So are we then restricting ourselves in the respect of smartphones? And now I'm working on a project where we've got a 2-star hotel with a grab and go, people serve coffee. If we could come up with a method to streamline the check-in, that frees up front office staff to multi-purpose. Citizen M don't even have a reception desk. Actually, you do self-check-in. They have these wonderful ambassadors. I'm a huge fan of Citizen M. I fell in love with it the very first time, apart from the fact that my wife had to climb over me at the other end of the bed to get over, because the bed is the entire duration of the room. But their use of technology is absolutely sensational. So, the most important thing is, in 2015 and beyond, this is what's going to happen, I believe. I may be proved wrong, but we started the smartphone generation, was started essentially by airlines. I'm still fascinated with Qantas. I check in on my smartphone, I go there, and they still give me a sheet of paper to carry onto the plane, which I don't understand why, because, you know, they keep telling me you need it. But the reality is, it's the airlines that have taken us to this level of technology, and all we want to do is, if we can do it and check it in and it's simple and easy, we're going to embrace it. And I believe once it takes off and people get their head around the advantages, it's going to take off like crazy. So I would suggest to any of those in the room who are thinking about refurbishing the hotels or building new hotels, talk to your door lock vendor and make sure that the system you can either support it or can be making sure that we can be easily upgraded at some point in the future to take advantage of this technology. So the other thing is 6.2 billion cellular phones. We won't talk about OTAs, that's a whole other subject, but the reality at the end of the day is that's what we're moving to. Now, quickly, he's coughed once, so this is, by the way, the application that Jerry is putting to his hotels as a company from UK. I think you can read it, so I won't go any further. The important thing is it enables the guests to select their time of arrival, select the room they want, filtering options, receiving notifications, etc. Get the picture. But it's simple, easy. I suppose when it doesn't work, I suppose you'll then think, what I loved about the hotel at Hyatt is if you're up there in the room and it doesn't work, it actually automatically generates a text message at the front desk and someone runs up with a key. So you don't have to go back down and complain. So this is probably the most important thing, is that the reality today now is what we're looking at with all this technology is for a hotel chain to build a relationship via smartphone and a variety of other technology before, during and after your stay. What they're trying to do is convince you to book through their website as a loyalty member and keep away from the OTAs. So they're investing heavily in technology to build communication platforms with you before, during and after. And smartphones, based on what I've said earlier, is the key. And as we can see, the hotel room of the future is going to be full of IP devices. Luckily now, with IP, or Internet Protocol, we won't need to worry about hardwiring all these things. And that, only 1 minute over. In 27 slides, I think I've done well. Hopefully we have some time at the end for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. I think that was a personal record, getting through all that in good time. I'll still buy you dinner.
Thanks.
I've got one question before we move on to Isaac. Is guest technology expectation aligned with the star rating? So the higher the star, the more the higher the expectation. Does that ring true, or is it?
I'd like to think so, but hey, years ago, people are still mandating, we won't mention any brands, but I'd really have a problem with phones in bathrooms. And when you track back and work out why that was the case, back in the old days in the US, 5-star rating, to get a 5-star rating, you had to have a phone in the bathroom. Let me tell you, for any of those people who are trying to push back on that, it is no longer a requirement for the star ratings in America. But to answer your question is, I think the star ratings have got a bit behind. It's more about meeting expectations of consumers. The problem we have today is the technology in our homes is far superior to that we've got in hotel rooms. And the reality at the end of the day now is, what we're looking at now is there is a ratings agency in New York now rating Wi-Fi on speed. There are tools now, so you can rate not the hotel and as an attachment to TripAdvisor, the speed of the internet being provided. So I don't know if I've answered the question. I'd like to think in the next 5 years that the ratings will start featuring more technology as part of an integral part of the rating systems, but I think they've got a ways to go yet.
So in the past, yes, but going forward, probably no. And
No.
It's up for grabs.
Yes, I'd like to think so, yes.
Great.
I mean, I think the problem is, let's get one thing clear. Wi-Fi is like water, gas and electricity. It should be free. Let's not even think about it now. The problem is, for those in the room who might be throwing their hands up in the air, there is some consolation there in a premium service, because the reality today now is, as I mentioned earlier, people are bringing their own content. Stan, Presto, Netflix, etc. All we need to do is provide them with a premium internet service, and that's where the opportunity is to commercialise and maybe charge a small price for internet.
Thank you, Ted. Do you want to jump up, or do you want to go
Yes,
from here?
we'll do. No, I'll go up there. Yeah.
Everyone, Isaac.
Hi all, so my name's Isaac Kim. I'm the Business Development Manager for Push Controls by Schneider Electric, who were acquired last year. It's always very intimidating when you find out the man who goes before you has been in the industry just a little bit longer than I've been alive. So, so that's always good. For the record, I do agree Wi-Fi should be free in the hotel room. You go to your local shopping centre or your library, you get some free Wi-Fi there, it's pretty good speed. If I'm paying X amount for a 5-star hotel, I agree, it should be included. Anyway, let's start with my presentation. So the smart hotel. So I'll be talking about the concept of what the smart hotel is and what kind of value it brings to your future projects. What is a smart room? Well, when you say smart room or smart hotel room to anyone, this is what they think. They think an Iron Man room. It looks more like a Tron room to me. And you know, one day it may be, but no, not necessarily. So you think Iron Man room, you think, oh, 3D holograms and voice control and an AI with an English accent who obeys all your commands. Not necessarily. This is more what we like to think is a smart hotel. Just standard hotel, but all the smarts have been integrated in the back end and available to very easily on just your own smart device or a smart device which has actually been implemented on the room. So whether that be like a stuck-on-wall bezel that you can actually mount an iPad or an Android tablet in, or whether it's part of the table control, wherever. So what can you do? You have your standard central command center, which connects to your smart device via your inbuilt Wi-Fi. That can connect to your Do Not Disturb makeup room, get rid of those ugly paper tags that people stick up on the door. It also allows for accurate data reading as well. So you think about if all this is automated, all your data collection is completely accurate, your logistics for sending out the cleaners or your makeup roomers is much more accurate as well. It also makes everything more time sensitive too. Your lighting and blind control is quite standard. But you can also do cool things. It all comes down to the imagination. Like we've thought up some concept solutions where, when people walk into the room for the first time, if it's daylight, the blinds slowly open, the lights slowly dim on, so they get that experience of, wow, I've just walked into a room and it knows I'm here. If it's nighttime, the blinds remain closed, obviously. The lights will dim on a little bit quicker, turn on some jazz music, just as the entrance. It's almost like the red carpet. It's like a digital red carpet as they walk through. Your standard GPOs as well can be controlled. Your AV is a big one. AV is what we actually started on as a company. So whether it be your Blu-ray system, your TV, your media content that you want to stream locally from the hotel, your standard DTV or digital TV, and all those remotes that your normal hotel rooms have, you have to pick them all up, learn them all, and figure it out. And that's primarily one of the reasons why people want to bring on their own content, because they don't want to learn. Things like YouTube and Facebook and just the internet has really created this on-demand sort of presence that people want. So having that all centralized on one interface, making it extremely simple and easy to access, is a big part of what we do as a company. Also your HVAC or your climate controls. Again, every single hotel room is a little bit different. You got to learn the air conditioning control. You got to figure out where it is. If you're on a business trip, it's 11:30, you've had a long day, you just checked in, the last thing you want is to figure out where all the light switches are, figure out the air conditioning controls. And I can remember so many times where I walk into a hotel room, it's midnight, I've had all these events, had my drinks, I'm a little bit woozy, let's say, and I'm just trying to figure out how to turn the bloody lights off. And I can't, because I'm a bit confused, I'm tired, and I have to leave the hallway light on. It's very annoying. And I wake up and I see that hallway light and I get really annoyed at it and go, if only I could automate you. But that's part of my job. Also, occupancy sensors is another big one. These days, if you walk into a hotel room, everyone knows what that card switch is. You can put your everyday rewards card and just stick that into the slot and it'll power the whole room. So what do your normal hotel stayers do? They go out. 12 to 16 hours of the day, they're outside. But what they'll do, sneakily, they'll leave their card slotted in there. The electricity is actually running constantly, whether it be the TV, whether it be the lights. Think about all the energy costs that you're losing there as well. What you can do through occupancy sensors is actually automate the room in a way so that if it detects that there's no movement within the room in the last 1, 2, or 3 hours, if you want, you can actually dim the lights down to 10%, 20%, turn them off, turn off all the devices. If you think that across 50, 100, 200, 500 rooms, you think about the energy compliances there. It's really quite amazing what you can and can't do. Another great thing is a lot of automation companies these days work extensively. We're extremely agnostic in who we work with. So if you have existing relationships with certain control wiring or certain products within the actual room, you can integrate that quite easily into your solution or your imagination of what you want to control. So for example, we have some big players like Apple, Android, iRoom, Nest products, Plex, Bluesound, Sonos, the list goes on and on and on. And that's also exponentially growing as well. These automation packages can also be individualized. If you just want to do lighting, if you just want to do climate control, if you just want to do entertainment, we can actually cater towards that individual package as well. Most of the time, hoteliers, homeowners, and even commercial spaces do a combination of 3 or more, including security and energy management as well. Can it be retrofitted? Yes. So this doesn't just have to go into new hotels or new builds. We use wireless Z-Wave technology to actually integrate a lot of our automation into existing conventional wiring. It's actually very easy for the Sparkies or electrical contractors to actually sit that system just on top of your conventional wiring. So it's extremely easy, cost-effective, and very time-effective as well, and efficient. And you still get the same level of control for all your lighting, all your devices, and all the elements within the room. So, what do we want to do when you create a smart room? We want to have what's called a one-touch user interface. One touch in terms of you might have big scene buttons that you press, like a good morning scene or a good night scene that shuts the whole room down, or a movie scene. We've even seen alarm scenes where people set a little alarm on the actual iPad and say 7 a.m., they wake up, the blinds slowly let the sun in, the lights again dim up, and the music in the actual room turns on as well. It's a really nice way to wake up. It's a very special experience. But we also say one touch, as in one central point where they can access all the control in the room. Again, going to the light here, light switch there, turning off this device, finding the remote to turn the TV off, setting the AC right before you sleep or turning it off, all of that in one touch. That's what we're really going for. No learning curve. This is a massive one. You know, again, we don't want the customers to feel as if they have to learn the room. Why should they? I mean, they've come from home or they're on a business trip. They want that experience of luxury. What is luxury? Luxury, we believe, is simplicity. Being able to meld towards the customer rather than the customer melding towards the room. So we want to really create that no learning curve experience. And these all lead down to a memorable experience. And Kingsley touched on this. It's all the little things that make up that total experience. And we truly believe that those little things which can be annoyances or problems can actually be turned into a very positive experience and a new experience for many as well. So what's the cost? I know you've all been thinking about it. People think automation is quite expensive. This is in general. People think it will cost them hundreds or even the high tens of thousands of dollars. No. Actually, just to give you an example, for a standard 4-bedroom home or house, it will cost anywhere between $5,000 to $25,000 to automate the whole thing. And the 25 grand is just completely everything, the shebang, the works. In a hotel room, you're probably looking at about $2,500 to $5,000 per room to automate completely. And that will all centralize to one network as well, overall, hotel network center. So it's not actually that costly. Why now? And this links back to Ted's presentation as well. So this is a graph sourced by Cisco. You can see in 2003, we had 500 million devices for 6.3 billion people. By the way, 2007 is where the iPhone first came out, and you can see a massive increase of 12 billion devices by 2010, in between those 7 years. Only 500 more million people, 12 billion more smart devices. 2015, which is where we are today, we have 25 billion devices for 7.2 billion people. And 2020, we're forecasted to grow even further for 50 billion devices for 7.6 billion people. Globally, that's 6.6 devices per person, globally. Now, in the Western world, we're looking probably 2 to 3 times that. And you might think, that's a lot of devices, but not really. You got your wearables, like your Apple Watch, you got your iPhone or your Android phone, you got your tablet, you got your computer, you got your car, that also counts. You got your IP fridge, washing machine, TV, the list goes on and on. So 50 billion devices by 2020, globally a $1 trillion industry in the smart space, and 6.6 or 5 smart devices per person. This is a graph by Business Insider Intelligence, which shows the growing trend of connected home device annual shipments, which means devices which are shipped out for automation, whether it be home, commercial, or accommodation spaces. About 85 to 90% of this, though, is going into residences or homes. So if you look at that trend, there's a 67 compound annual growth rate. That's still going up exponentially and forecasted to grow even further. Oops, sorry about that. Why that's significant, especially, is this. If people are getting this technology as standard in their home, when they go to a hotel where they expect further luxury, further technologies, further advances, a better bed, a better shower, if they have it in their own home and they don't get that same experience in the hotel, it's going to be already immediately a negative experience. So this really shows that the question isn't if, but when we actually implement this technology into our future hotels. I'm going to finish up a little bit short, I think, which is a good thing. Just with a little quote from Mr. Richard Branson, old pal of mine. Complexity is your enemy. Any fool can make something complicated. It is hard to keep things simple. And this is a mantra that we really absolutely follow, because we want that simple, memorable experience for the end user. And we want to link that back to your future projects, your hotels. So thank you for your time. I hope you learned something today.
Probably got time for one question. I'll try and ask both if we have time.
Ask
Ted.
Isaac first.
Oh, thanks, Ted.
You can spend money on one thing, technology-wise, in a hotel. What do you spend it on?
Does the Wi-Fi count or is it free?
Wi-Fi counts.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
Right.
Can't live without Wi-Fi. I mean, the Internet of Things really has come to this stage where I, like Ted, don't turn on my TV. I don't look at any of the magazines that they put in there. I don't look at any of the advertising. I know what I want. It's all on my device. As long as I can have access to that, I'm happy. Yeah.
Okay. Ted, same question. You can spend money on one thing.
I would say probably if you had the opportunity is to whatever Wi-Fi you got, bump it up, put a bigger pipe into the hotel. There's hotels in America now that are a 1 gig pipe. We now expect unlimited data, so don't make the plans complex. And make sure now you move from what we've had in the past, the Wi-Fi or WAPs as we call them, Wi-Fi access points, move them from the corridor into the room and maybe look at having one per room, because the closer you are to your devices and the wireless access point, the better the experience will be.
Fantastic. Good advice. Yeah, thank the team, Ted Horner and Isaac Kim.
That's a great session. By the way, the newest hotel that just opened in Sydney has one of those WAPs in every room. It was a conversion, and it's free. Can we ask all the panellists to come up now? James is going to lead a Quiz the International session. So we've got Brett Patterson, Josh Fluhr, Rob Wagemans, Carol Finnie, and Paul Wiste. Again, you've met them all before. If you could all come up, please. I think I will introduce Brett, though. Brett's the unsung hero here today. He's the one that's spending all the money. I know you've spent some money on this too, but he's spending more. Brett, everybody else that's coming up here today has been introduced, but Brett, if I may, he joined SHAPE as a project manager in '92. He's been responsible for the hotels sector of the company for 15 years, general manager of the Victorian operation. He's across a lot of projects in Australia, including casinos, resorts, and new fit-outs, refurbishments. He's been involved in the refurbishment of close to 250 hotel properties, 25,000 hotel rooms. The list goes on with some big-name brands and some big projects. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you. Thanks, Harold.
Are you standing up?
Oh, well, short of a chair. I'll sit on the arm here, mate.
Sit on the arm, mate. There you go. Right the arm.
Feeling really comfortable here, mate. Thank you.
James, you're the worker here. You should be standing here.
No, it's right. We'll
Yeah.
do it from the back. You can start and we'll swap.
No, I'm pretty good. I've actually got a question for everybody here, and given that last week was the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future 2, so Back to the Future 3, well, I don't think there was one, I hope there wasn't, 30 years' time, what does a hotel look like?
Start down the end.
Rob, you'll have the best
There you
response.
go.
I think the hotel room will be moving or something, or you carry it with you or something.
Am I going to write these
30 years
predictions
from
down?
now, I think things are still similar as today, but if you look even further.
I think I'd like to think I outlined it a little bit before. I think in the future we're going to be looking at 100 key luxury hotels, or even just standard hotels, but we're going to have this idea of these components of within the city that we're going to be living in, and the notion of accommodation is going to change, and maybe it is moving, maybe it is a motorhome, but I think that the way that we interact with our cities is certainly changing now, and that is going to be translated within the way that we ultimately design our hotels.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree that the immersion of Airbnbs and flip keys and HomeAways and those disruptors are really going to change the way we stay. I'm not exactly sure what the hotel looks like, but it's definitely gonna have a transported component to it. I don't know if it's on wheels or with wings or anything like that crazy, but but maybe, I mean, if you talk about 30 years from now, you've got outer space and all these other places that seemingly today are bizarre, but I think that those things become real, and I'm not sure I got a good crystal ball on that, but it's definitely going to look different than today.
I think from my point of view, I think we've got our planet that we continue to explore. So I think there'll be a lot of variety. That I think you'll have different types of holidays and different types of hotels. So I think it will be a lot more flexible, certainly, and I think it will go further afield. So I think that's what we'll be looking at. We'll be covering every corner of the earth, because I think people's individuality of how they want to explore this world changes. So I think sometimes it'll be a small space, and other times it'll be a group thing. So I think it's just really all about, but still with movement, I think, very much.
Do we think we're going to see a bit of a growth, I mean, in terms of, the flying hotels? Etihad's got the residents on board now with the showers and a one-bedroom suite. Do you think we're going to see more of that? And also the other one that has come up consistently in 20 years is the old underwater hotel, fully underwater. How are we looking? And what do you think? Do you think more of this whole kind of concept of people not just travelling in style, but literally like the flying hotels?
I think the underwater thing seems a little just kitschy. I mean, there's no reason to, except for the fun of doing that. But I think that the way that people travel these days, it's about convenience and how you define luxury, whether it's time or space or access to information. So I think the underwater stuff is interesting. It's a fun idea, but I'm not sure it actually answers what people are going to want in the future, except a fun, interesting vacation.
It's like a Jumeirah A380.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you've already got that with Emirates now, so you've just got to rebrand them and put more suites in.
Well, look, I mean, we're just right now on the verge of 3D printing buildings. I mean, I've seen some 3D printing in concrete. I mean, who knows? In 30 years, maybe we'll be printing out rooms for everyone, so that my demographic, when I check into any of these points programs and they know my preferences, who knows? Maybe they'll print my room for me before I arrive. I mean, literally, guys, I mean, 15 years ago, we weren't even thinking about 3D printing, and now everyone does this in their model rooms, and everyone's looking at 3D printed jewelry and these objects. I mean, it could get down to that point. And we looked at lighting today. Maybe they'll use lighting tricks and design styles to be able to create the surfaces that you want, right? So we don't really know where it's going, but I think it's safe to say that it's changing, and we all can see that it's changing.
You look at sort of the kitschy stuff, like sort of Brett saying, sort of Back to the Future, stuff like that. I mean, whatever happened to the Hilton up in space, from Space Odyssey and that kind of stuff? It's all a bit kind of futuristic, isn't it? But let's look just 5 years ahead. Brett wants to go a bit further, but we'll just go 5 years ahead. Because everyone talks room of the future consistently. We've seen so much stuff today. I think some of the lighting concepts were amazing. So if we could blend in a lot of those themes, it's a pretty exciting future, isn't it? Even 5 years down the track.
So difficult to predict, though, because even 5 years ago, in terms of the technology we have today, the conversation about the phone, it was a 2-year-old phone. I mean, you're like, scrutinized if you've got a phone that's older than 12 months, if you're in most of these businesses, and it's just, it's so hard to predict that. We're not answering your question. It's
we don't know.
a very difficult question.
But I think the other thing is there might be even a backlash in 5-10 years. You might start to sort of go the other way, because history's always shown quite a lot when you actually you have something intensely and then you get overwhelmed by it. It's done to death, and then you strive for the simplicity. So there may even be the opposite, where we start to backlash and go to a much simpler way of travel and holidaying and hotel.
There's always an opposite. So who would think 10 years ago that we would have coffee in a small coffee place and there's a guy with a beard dripping coffee in front of you? I mean, like, this is what we also do today.
Yeah.
Bartenders as well. That's a real
bartenders.
And chefs. Yeah. Anything else we're missing? No.
So maybe back to the drive-in motel.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe your wigwam motel.
I dream of a world where Airbnb is regulated. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the future in terms of where the operators are looking at, is trying to get a level playing field. But look, it might not happen. But they got Capone on taxes, didn't they? Yeah. They'll get the owners on taxes. I mean, the municipalities will start saying they're losing money.
Well, the New York City unions right now are trying to enlist hotels to contribute to a joint fund, which, if you know that relationship, it's typically a combative one. hotels and the unions don't always play nice together. But in this particular instance, they're putting together a fund that they're going to joint contribute to battle Airbnb and get Airbnb and those kinds of concepts regulated on a number of different fronts. So, you know, maybe that's a new world too. The unions and hotels getting along.
And Rob, with your, you know, the hotel in New York was built in 2 weeks after, with fabrication. How high can you go with these things? Can you go 70, 80 stories?
27 today.
27. So in 5 years' time, you could be 70,
Yeah, well,
80.
3 years ago we stacked till 5, but now we have the opportunity to build modular in New York. Regulation was not ready yet, but now we are able to do. But our tower we designed to build traditionally was 27 stories of rooms. So we reinforced everything and looked at it. So we can do without a sub-construction, 27 rooms.
So could you put these on top of existing buildings? So could Jerry just put them in Surrey Hills and just start stacking up?
Depends on the building, what's underneath. But we're looking at a site in Boston where it's an existing building, which is very strong, heavy industrialized building. And we can just pop up a hotel. It's not that heavy. I mean, like, it feels like heavy, but it's not as heavy as a traditional hotel.
And I think the interesting thing you said is the precision you get with your design, you know, because you're off-site as well. You can actually get good precision design and engineering when you're in the factory space.
Yeah, there's no rain and there's no freezing cold.
Perfect.
It's not too hot.
Nice and quick.
You have way less waste.
Yeah.
You can make molds. We have only one room type. So I had Mr. Marriott wanted to stay at Citizen M1, so he called my office if he could book the presidential suite. That's no problem. We booked him an average room. So we have only average rooms.
So you've got quite a few hotel chains are looking at this concept now. I mean, obviously looking at what Citizen M do and they're trying to emulate that kind of thing.
I think every hotel, a brand, is looking what the young kids are doing. And I think Citizen M is one of those brands which is changing the market. And I think there are a few other ones that they're following on what's happening there and what do they bring. Like traditionally hotels have been looking at each other. So Hilton knows exactly what's happening at Sheraton. And if Sheraton changed the wallpaper, Hilton feels they have to change the wallpaper too. But they have never really looked at their consumers and their guests that were changing. And I think that was the freedom we had and other brands had to really start something else. And in the shadow of the big brands grow.
You also have to look at hostels. I don't know if you guys have it here, but in Europe at least, the hostels are really becoming much more compelling. I mean, we compete with them, which is scary to say. If you look at Generator and some of these other companies that are taking otherwise, you know, a concept for the States at least, it's not at all part of who we are and what we as travelers are used to, and really upgrading it. It's all about the public spaces, really. The rooms themselves are almost secondary.
Look at the cruise industry. It's just one segment which is using cruise as their holiday destination. Well, we're moving into cruise as well. So before you know, we all are on a cruise, which I would never predict I would do myself. But I'm trying to create a cruise where I would go myself. So can you imagine this is a floating hotel? Huh? So how the world looks like if we all start taking a boat to New York again.
I thought you were about to say you're starting to do container ships and you just put your containers on the side of the ship and forget about the hotel.
Just leave them stacked up.
Just don't go through a hurricane, you could have a few issues with that kind of boat.
I want to open it up to the floor for any questions.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff. Microphone coming.
My name is Jeff Robinson. I'd like to ask the question, we've got a great panel here. There's been lots of great conversations about design and technology and so on, but sort of no mention around where you reckon design is heading to with respect to embracing sustainability. I wondered if you could talk from your international perspective of where you see that sits.
Let's go first, me.
I mean, look, I think we have talked about issues of sustainability. I think what you're specifically referencing is building sustainability, but we've talked about cultural sustainability all day. And I think that in terms of the way that we're designing, we're becoming too obsessed with building systems in terms of their sustainability and not obsessed enough with the cultural impact of what we're doing. So if that means going into a jungle and putting up a resort where they've never had power before, or if that means putting birds on top of a building to give people some kind of a little bit more of a glimpse of humanity. I mean, those are to me just as important as the latent systems that you're probably referencing within LEED or something like that. So look, I think if you talk to any of the brands, we'll be telling you how it's important to us. And if you talk to any of our guests, they're going to tell you it's important to us. All the research is telling us that that's the way it's going. And it's something that certainly within my role, I am constantly advocating, and sometimes against the architects, and having to go and speak to the owners and have to say, you know, this person's not paying attention to this enough. And so it's not always just the owners who are turning their backs, but look, it's something that we're all taking seriously. It's just there's some times with different projects have different solutions.
Yeah.
We looked at it at one of our projects that we're building in Doha right now, putting in turbines on the roof, and unfortunately it got, for value engineering purposes, it got chopped. But they're doing some things infrastructure-wise with reclaimed water and some other things that we're doing there that help to address that. I wish we could do more. It's just it becomes a question of cost in some instances. But we definitely have sustainable materials and things that we like to promote that help that process.
Excuse me. I think unfortunately in a lot of projects that we see, it's that technology that it's the first thing that gets value engineered out.
Correct, yeah.
When probably at the end of the day, it's the one that's going to save the most value in the long term. Yep. Disappointing. Ted.
2 questions. Question number 1 is, the panel, what's been your worst technology experience in a hotel? And secondly, what has been your best?
I think I wouldn't call this necessarily a technical problem, but I was actually snagging a room one day and I got locked in the shower in the bathroom. And I thought, it's okay, I've got a phone there I can use to get back out. And the phone wasn't working. So I was stuck in this bathroom in a hotel room doing the snagging, and I had to stay there for about 2 hours before I got back out. So that was my own little technical problem I had when I was doing some snagging.
I had just finished some very minor surgery, and I was on some antibiotics, and I had to keep them chilled. And I went into a hotel in New York, actually. And it wasn't yours, though. It wasn't yours. I was in New York, and I pulled out all of the, I'd traveled with ice and packs all around this to keep it cool, and I pulled out all the drinks out of the minibar, and I put my medicine in, and the next day they told me that I had a minibar charge of, I don't know, $200 because the GM put in one of the automatic minibars that every time you pull out, you pay for it. So that was a huge and epic fail for me, and so then what I said is, okay, well, give me a minibar, put it all back in, give me a minibar without any of that, and they then charged me $25 for the union to deliver the minibar up to my room. Right? So that was an epic fail. Yeah.
I had an air conditioning in Spain in a hotel, very hot summer, and there was a movement sensor, but the movement sensor was too cheap. So every 10 minutes while I was sleeping, the airco felt off, and then the room went 30, 35 degrees. You woke up like it's bloody hot, so you had to move a little bit, and then I could sleep for another hour, and then it was so hot, so it was a horrible night.
You've also got those issues where you've got with the automated minibars, an absolute nightmare where you're trying to get them in and out. I had a Wi-Fi last year that kept logging out every 6 minutes, constantly. Which today I've got my laptop here today, and today is lightning fast, really good. So it's kind of, you can see how far that's come, but it's still amazing nowadays. You go to a hotel and have to pay for Wi-Fi, and they try and trick you with the second speed. So you can have it for free, or you can pay $20 and get a higher speed. And I tried it out the other day, and it was exactly the same thing. So. I think what Ted says, Ted, if we can probably get a lot of hotel chains getting over that whole hump of, it's free at Starbucks, and why are we charging hundreds of dollars in hotels to use Wi-Fi is a bit bizarre, but thankfully it's getting a lot better. Best technology recently was opening a room with my iWatch on the SPG app in Starwood, just opening up a room key with your watch. That was pretty cool.
Anytime I can turn the lights off with one button, that just is pleasure. So it makes me happy.
And for me, the best experience is when you walk into a place you've been before, a hotel or other, and it recognizes you, and you don't have to do that whole drama with the Wi-Fi. You can sit down and just start working. It knows you're there. Your emails come in automatically. You're just constantly connected.
I had a similar experience when I checked into a hotel room one night in New York, and I'd been there before, and I walked in. The The curtains were drawn, the light level was just so, they were playing music on the Bose system of music that I like, and everything was just the way they had from memory from the last time I'd been there. Yeah. So that was pretty special. Kind of scary as well. It's like you're being stalked by your hotel company.
Just a follow-up question on that, Josh. In the US, it seems to be a lot of hotel groups have really got technology nailed now in terms of the internet, but also the TV, the content over there, obviously getting 100 channels compared to the 7 or so we get here in Australia sometimes. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of technology constantly coming out, like high tech in the US is constantly got these new products. How do you start looking at technology? You're looking about 2 years down the track sometimes?
Yeah, we are. When we go ahead and do, obviously the wiring in the building is the first thing. So we always try to, as best we can, future-proof the wiring and the infrastructure, because the devices themselves, we actually don't make decisions on some of those devices until 3 or 4 months before we open the building. So we know it's a TV, but as a silly example. We don't know which, we have brand standards, but we also know that those change very regularly based on what's coming out. So you go from a TV that's a coax to a TV that's IP to a TV that's, run from something we don't even know about yet. But we don't know which TV it's going to be when we actually start a project. So we do as best we can to future-proof it and look forward. And sometimes we do it right, and sometimes we do it wrong. As an example, in London, we fought, that's a bad word, we negotiated with the ownership group to put in a certain amount of technology that they didn't want to do, and now they're unhappy about it. On the flip side, in Doha, we steered away from some technology that the ownership pushed for, and it's actually going to be spot on. So it's always a guessing game. As far as the TV systems are concerned, we trying to shy away from, as a brand, as a company, all of the VOD stuff, all the movie services. We're just not doing them anymore. They don't make sense anymore. People want their normal TV channels. They don't want to go through all that drama. They don't buy movies anymore anyway. And when Citizen M does free porn, there's really nothing else to buy anyway, right? The point there is that everybody just wants the access to their TV channel. So we're trying to make it less complicated and just dumbing it down, and rather than complicating it with the next best, greatest thing. We don't ever want to be the beta test on these things. It's too risky.
Yeah.
Josh, what's the next market segment for Morgans?
Segment or product?
Product, yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about Hudson and trying to figure out what we do with Hudson as a brand. Mondrian, without a plan, has grown to what it is now, 6 strong, if you include the pipeline. Delano's got 2, so it's got some depth to it, and there's 1 on the way in Dubai, so that'll be a fairly strong brand. And with Hudson, we really want to create our limited service brand with Hudson. So we believe that, at least in the United States, there are hundreds, maybe that's aggressive, but tens of markets where you could drop a Hudson because it's a warehouse neighborhood or an old factory neighborhood that's regentrifying, similar to what we saw at the Old Claire last night, and I'm staying there, these neighborhoods that are kind of re-emerging that have these beautiful structures of glass and stone and brick buildings that Hudson would really work well in. Small rooms, difficult rooms, quirky rooms, the things that make a traditional hotel difficult to put in that box, we think that Hudson would be really a great fit for, and that it's a great licensed product going forward, so it's a good franchise vehicle. We, as a company, we got to figure out exactly how to put the right resources behind that, but there's been lots of conversation of recent around really putting some gas into that tank and seeing how we can take it on the road.
Paul, Jamira?
Well, look, a year and a half ago, we launched our lifestyle brand. So we have that, and we're looking at rolling that out within Asia, and very consciously looking at opportunities outside of China as well within China, but we don't want it to certainly be perceived as our Chinese brand. It's much more bigger, it's much different than that. So I think right now we're happy with having those 2 brands. I know I've heard my Chief Executive Officer talk about, there are possibilities in the future, but right now our position is a holding position in terms of just getting those 2 brands, getting them right, and getting them into the right markets, and focusing on that in terms of our strategy. Because, as you're saying, Josh, it's a whole huge conversation when you're trying to roll something new out, and trying to just get it done right with these ones is our current focus.
Is that a target market for? Excuse me. Is Australia a target market for Jamira then?
Of course. I think Australia could handle both brands. I think that there's a space within Australia where both brands have enough separation, enough similarities where they can either work symbiotically or separately. We also have the service department brands that sister them, as well as the branded residences that sister those again. So there's in total, we actually have 6 brands, so to speak, that we could introduce into markets in various different strategies. So look, we've got a lot of opportunity here, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here. It's one of the reasons why we're making ourselves present here.
Cool.
Richard. Yeah, hi Brett. Question for you.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's about the designer-builder relationship.
Yep.
So yeah, we work together and we need each other, and I think to get a successful hotel built, we need to have a good relationship. So in fact, next year's conference, I think it could be quite useful to have one of your guys front up and talk about what you would like to see with your designers. So my question now is, to preempt that, is in the meantime, what do you see as the critical requirements for architects and interior designers that you work with to get a successful project?
All right, I could upset a few people here, but I guess from our point of view, it's always been a work-with relationship, and sometimes designers can get a little precious about their design, especially when the client's got budget constraints. And I guess the clients are always looking at us to try and find ways of value engineering, and no matter what you choose or what you select as a value engineering option, the designer never likes it. But where projects have been really successful, it's been a work-with relationship, and you work together to find a solution. I guess our approach is we don't want to look at changing the concept of what's required. It's just finding a solution to a product, whether that be tiles, carpet, paints, laminates versus timber veneers, and where stuff's manufactured, and suppliers and all those sorts of things. So we know a lot of suppliers have really strong relationships with architects and designers, and that upsets them when you want to go to another supplier. But sometimes that needs to happen, especially when clients are very budget constrained, and it's always a difficult one. But yeah.
I think it's a good point you made about materials. I think designers, and they need to be a lot more savvy with their product knowledge. At DWP, we do something where we've got a weekly update on products that are out, so ever changing, and again, being a bit more cost aware as well. And lastly, I think designers need to have a lot more site experience, because again, that makes them work better with the contractors on site, a lot more productive, and they've got a bit better understanding of design detailing when you get to the shop drawing stage.
Any more questions?
Not yet.
Gee. It's all gone silent.
Okay.
Sorry?
Cocktail hour.
Cocktail. Well, it is 5 o'clock, so we've done pretty well. Again, just one last question from anyone? No? All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone on the panel. Rob, Paul, Josh, Carol, thank you for coming to Australia. I know it's a long way to come for a day, but I think everyone in the room's appreciated your thoughts today. It's been fantastic. Yeah, thank you. If you'd like to, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the fact that this is our 4th year this year, and we've managed to keep the same number of people here every year, around 220 to 230 people, which is our ideal number. I think we've really been spoilt today with the level of speakers that we've had, both locally and internationally. When I put this together every year, it's always difficult to try and mix and have the right mix of topics and the right mix of
right mix of speakers. When I'm talking to people, it's always an enjoyable experience in putting it together and getting them to speak. But then you speak to other people, you speak to some designers, and some hoteliers. Oh, you've got something really good to tell, but I don't like public speaking. It's like, how do you win work? Oh, I just don't get that. It's like, what's the fear of standing up in front of 200 people? Well, it's probably a fair bit, but that's why you've got this to hang on to. But really, the level of speakers that we've had again this year, absolutely fantastic. But a special thanks to Carol, to Rob, to Josh, to Paul, to Kingsley, and to Peng for both last night and today. For those who unfortunately didn't get to walk through his hotel last night and have dinner at one of his restaurants, it was an amazing experience, and you should all go and have a look at it and eat at Automator. It was absolutely fantastic food. It's only been open for 5 weeks, not even that, 4 weeks, and it was truly a memorable experience. So what have we learnt today? The Australian hotel market's in pretty good shape. Sydney and Melbourne both performing exceptionally well. The others are not far behind. Me being a little bit parochial, there'll be more hotels in Melbourne ahead of Sydney in the next couple of years. Yes, go Melbourne. Isn't it great that we're developing our own homegrown hotels like the Alex and Little National? Absolutely fantastic concepts. I hope they expand further outside of their current markets. Right, Miles? Can you do 2 hotels? 6? Cool. I think we also learnt that it sounds like Peng is going to buy the raffles in Singapore and Josh is going to run it. Rob identified that we have an idiot in every office, and I think I can relate to that. And he also said if it's already broken, break it again. So not a bad way of fixing a concept. Graphene, stronger than steel, lighter than hair. Sounds like Superman. And lifestyle is definitely a growing segment, not just in the luxury section, but at all levels. We now know that Ted can talk for less than 15 minutes. But also I'd like to thank the sponsors today. So without them, we wouldn't have it. This wouldn't be possible. Our major partner, HM Magazine, and to James and Adam, thank you very much for all your efforts today. Our industry supporter, Accor, for their support today. I had ISIS Group Australia. Well, they no longer exist, so it's SHAPE, so thank you. Beard and Kincoil, Brinton's, Lightforce, Dulux, Ortex, Dormer, Laminex Industries, Schneider, Swiss Trade, Zip, our lunch sponsor, Prototype Furniture, and our photographer, Tyrone Brannigan. I'd also like to thank the following people who've worked tirelessly over the last few months and put up with all my annoyance in chasing them, or them actually chasing me to do something, which is probably more like it. Kate McBain, Marnie, Mary, Pickles, and also Mel and Laura from Intermedia, and Howard for keeping everybody on time, on track again this year, so thank you. And gotta love the bow tie. Mixing it up each year. And Michael Cotton and his team here at the Shangri-La for looking after us today. I think the food was exceptional for the bit better than the stock standard buffet you usually get. So that concludes today's formal part of the day. Drinks are to be served out in the ante-space out the front. We won't be doing this next year in 2016. It's hard to put together each year. I want to actually do my day job for probably 12 months, and we'll come back in early 2017 to just sort of change it up. I know Wilco wants me to do it in 2016. He's challenged me to try and do it in May, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too difficult to do. So hopefully we'll see you in 2017. In fact, we will see you in 2017. And James just wanted to say something very quickly. So, thank you.
Apart from telling Brett he needs to do it again next year, we'll probably look at, we have the AHICE conference as well, so if Brett does want to do his day job for 12 months, we'll look at how we can integrate possibly up to a half day of some design sessions there. I just wanted to thank Brett. He's had to go through a massive company change of changing a brand, and I always admire Brett for having the foresight, the vision to put on this event in the first place, and I think it's unlike anything else we have in Asia Pacific. There are a lot of conferences on, but nothing like this, and I think this year's speakers was by far and away the best, probably at almost any conference in Australia this year. I think just sitting back, the calibre of all the speakers, the presentations was just absolutely phenomenal. And again, great to see so many local firms, but international firms just doing some incredible work. So, but really just to Brett, just to congratulate him on pulling it together 4 years in a row. And, you know, we want to go upwards and continue it going, and we'll see what we can do. But just a big congratulations just to Brett, I think. So.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Now I'm feeling a little bit embarrassed, but if you'd like to have a drink out the front with us, that'd be fantastic. So thank you.